Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. I seem to start by saying every webinar with the exact same thing, but once again, we have had a few problems with the links. Thank you so much for those people who have joined us live. If you haven't joined us live and you are watching this on the recording, no problem at all. Sorry you've had problems with the link, but thank you for taking the time to watch this back. Now, I'm going to get straight into what we're talking about here. I'm sure you all know exactly what you're here to talk about and what you're here for. We are here for SEO for creatives. And when I say creatives, I'm talking more in particular about photographers and filmmakers. We've only got 20 minutes here, so I am going to be quite quick. We do have a rather low live audience count, which is completely fine, meaning I won't be having kind of a designated question section at the end. If you have got any questions, pop them in the chat as we go, and we will answer them at the end. There are two parts to this webinar. The first part, I'll be covering the SEO strategy that I have found to work for photographers and for filmmakers. The second part, I'll be talking more about artificial intelligence, how we can use AI to boost our strategy, and also talking about some of the negative aspects of AI and how we shouldn't be using it with our SEO. It's up to date, it's concise, we'll only be here 20 minutes. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is your website. I want you to imagine that your website is our white circle here in the middle. Let's take a look at all the things we've got around this circle. So we've got these are all the different things that make up your website. So for example, we've got content, we've got images, we've got videos, we've got testimonials, and we've got possibly it could be an e-commerce site. My point with this graph is what I'm showing is there are so many different aspects that make up your website. And this kind of links slightly into more why I'm running this webinar. Why am I running this webinar in particular for photographers and filmmakers? And more, why is my agency about helping those people in the creative industry? Now, what I find interesting about these websites, for example, I know a lot of you here are photographers and are photographic agencies. Your website's content primarily consists of photos and videos. Therefore, if you kind of gave a regular SEO agency your website to help improve their SEO, the results you see are going to be standard, that they apply against everyone's websites that they're getting. What I'm trying to show you here is a kind of different side of it on how you can optimize your website, specifically looking into what I call our image SEO. Now, image SEO, the main thing I'm talking about here is our image alt tags. Now, if you're not familiar with what an image alt tag is, it's effectively a description of that image which Google looks at, and it's important on our website for two reasons. So whatever website builder you are with, you will be allowed to enter an image alt tag. Now, Google looks at this image alt tag for two reasons. Our first reason is that it's used for screen readers. So those who are visually impaired, who are visiting your website, they're going to be looking at your photos, and obviously they can't see your photos, so they will be read out by what is called a screen reader. They will be read out the alt text, meaning what your alt text needs to do is describe what is in the image. The slightly unfair part about this is Google also uses it as a ranking factor, meaning what we can't do here is start cramming it with keywords or misusing it in a way, but we also want to make it keyword friendly. Now, this is the way that we've developed to write your image alt text in the perfect manner, and we call it INK. INK stands for image name keyword. And from now on, this is how I want you to write your image alt text. So I'm going to run you through it quickly here. We're going to start with the image, where I want you to describe what is in the image. I'm going to run through an example of this a little bit later, but effectively with the image, we are describing exactly what it is. It's quite a simple stage, that bit. So I'm going to move swiftly on from there. Then we're moving on to our N, which stands for name. In this bit, I want you to incorporate your company name or name of your personal brand, depending on whether you're an agency or an individual photographer, depending on whether you're a company who's trying to represent individual photographers. It's all dependent on that. And as I say, I will show you an example later. Moving on, our K is going to stand for keywords. Now, I know we all know how important keywords are for SEO, but what's hard about this is we want to incorporate the keyword in a way that it's still friendly for screen readers. So I'm going to show you a little example of how we do that here. So as I say, in keyword, include the target keyword for that page. And all that makes what we call ink tagging. Now I'm going to go in slightly more detail here and show you how I would use ink alt text to tag an image. So let's take this image here, for example. We've got a nice aerial shot of, perhaps that's not an aerial shot, excuse me, I'm going to be told off for that, but a photo of some hot air balloons floating above the clouds. And I want to tag this using ink. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by describing what is in the image. You know, quite simply, it's a hot air balloon floating over the clouds. The next part, I'm going to include the name, what's shown here in light blue, which is shot by Oliver Hodgson. Now, the next part is the red, who is a travel photographer from London, who is a travel and lifestyle photographer from London. That is our keyword. Now, I want you to notice a few things about how I've written this. The most important being, it reads as a sentence. And why this is important is it is built for those screen readers of those who may be visually impaired to visit your website. So we're adding keywords in, but we're not misusing the alt text for those who are visually impaired. Now, what I've also done here is added a location from London. This is really important for your local SEO and making sure that you're targeting a specific area. Just a general note on keywords, you want to be targeting, firstly, quite a small group of keywords. Let's say you're a photographic agency. You want to start off by targeting photographic agency London before you start tagging, photographic agency UK, let's just say. Okay, so that's an example of how we use alt text. I've got a little kind of checklist here, which shows you exactly all the things your alt text needs to include. Readable for screen readers, I think I've mentioned that enough. Follows the ink structure, as we know. Unique tag per image is really important. I see loads of people tagging their images with repetitive keywords, completely cramming the same keyword into every image. What I think about that is, think of it like you're writing it as text. So let's say you've got 50 images on your page, and they are all tagged with photographic agency London. Okay, and if you imagine that's all text, which is how Google's seeing it, you have got photographic agency London 50 times appearing on that website. Now, that page isn't going to get ranked, quite frankly. It's most definitely not even going to be put on Google, let alone ranking highly. So it's really important that we use a unique tag for each image. My next part is avoid keyword cramming, which I've talked about, include location, and 75 to 125 characters. We want this to be fairly long. We want it to be almost like a longer sentence rather than just a few words, which you may be tagging your images as. So that's our first part of image SEO, and that's image tagging. The next part I want to talk to you about is page size. Now, in particular, if you are a photographer, a photographic agency, a filmmaker, your page size may be significant. And the reason for that is because of your images, how big they are. There are so many reasons why page size is important. And it's not just the one on the right, which I've mentioned here. Many people think that obviously it's true that the longer your website takes to load, the higher your bounce rate is. But there's an alternative side of that, as Google uses it as a ranking factor. So even if you think, my website loads fine from my perspective, there's no issues with it, until you put it into a tool such as page speed or GT metrics, you don't know for sure that Google's gonna be happy with it, if you see what I mean. If it's not ranking hard enough, if your page speed is not low enough, you will not be ranking in those top positions. It's as simple as that. Google cares about user experience more than anything, and that's, again, something I'm going to talk about later. Now, I like this slide because this is compressing images. It's more about keeping that page size under 5 megabytes, which is our limit. Now, I just want to talk slightly about page size. It does get confusing because it's dependent on what your website has been built on. For example, if your website's been built on WordPress or Squarespace or Wix, it has these automatic compression softwares. So your images will automatically be compressed. But what that doesn't mean is your page size is going to be fine, whatever. Most of the times, even if you're built through a mainstream web builder, you're still going to have problems with the size of your website. Now, the most important thing here is that we're not storing images as PNGs, as I see so many people do. You know, if all your images are PNGs, your website will not be quick enough on Google's loading ranking index. So ensure that all your images aren't JPEGs, aren't PNGs, they need to be WebPs. These were all built for the internet. And it's also important to remember that with a WebP, and if it's been built correctly, that WebP, and transferred correctly from a PNG to a WebP, you're not going to have any issues with loading and with quality in particular. You're not going to have quality issues if you use WebPs, which many people think we do. The next thing is more of a specific WordPress feature, and it's called browser caching. Now, I'm not going to get into kind of the technical details of what this consists of, but it's really only possible if you're with WordPress. Otherwise, it requires a lot of technical work, which you'd be paying quite a lot to look at. The most important thing is your images. You know, that's what I'm coming back to. That's why I'm making this webinar. It's about those people who have their website consists of mainly images. So in particular, I want you to focus on moving your images from PNGs and JPEGs to WebPs. We're on section 2 now, where I want to talk slightly more about future-proofing your strategy. Now, in particular here, I want to be talking about artificial intelligence and AI. Now, there are so many interesting things, and I think definitely speaking with photographers, you realize just how crazy it's getting with AI, especially you know, image-based AIs. And I know everyone's trying to keep in front of that race, keep ahead of the AI, utilizing AI. And it's a big thing in the photographic industry. I'm aware of that, but it's also a big thing in the SEO industry. You know, if you look on social media, you will see so many ways to beat Google, almost trick Google into ranking highly on Google. I want to just kind of bring us back down here, and I want to show you how we can effectively use AI with our SEO strategy. Now, as I've illustrated here, there are so many different ways that we can use AI. Just to mention 4, we can use it to research keywords, which I've said at the top. We can use it to tag images. With Google's new AI Bard, we can give it our image and we can make it follow the ink structure. We can also use it, or the blue ones, which are kind of what I'm going to be talking about to you today. We can use it to track data, and we can use it to write content for our website. Starting it off quite simple, I want to talk to you about Google's Search Console. Now, if you've looked into SEO in the past, you will or you should have set this up with your business. It's quite simple to set up depending on the website you're with. It requires just inputting a little bit of code into the footer of your website, and you will be linked and you'll be able to see the metrics for your website. Now, I'm not interested in showing you about what this does. I just want to show you about this button in the top right here, which is export. That one button can give you a CSV for 6 months of your ranking data. And that will show you what I've illustrated across the top here. It will show you your total clicks and your total impressions. And it will also break down individual keywords you're ranking for. Now, depending on how many impressions you're getting, for example, here we've got 100,000 impressions over the last 3 months. It's not going to be possible to search for all that data and find anything useful. And this is where we can bring in AI, in particular, ChatGPT-4. Now, here's a few things I've done by importing my 6 months of data into the what's called the data analysis tool on GPT-4. The first thing is I've got it to show, I'm just going to bring you to the top here, top queries by clicks. Effectively what it's doing here is it's showing us keywords. For example, if we look at this client here, we had wedding photographer Plymouth. We were getting 5 clicks. And if you look between these 2 keywords, which are very similar, we're getting over 1,000 impressions for this keyword, but we are ranking 25th and 37th. That's giving us a 0.1% CTR and a 0.05% CTR, which is obviously absolutely atrocious. So what we can work on here is we know we need to build our strategy focused around wedding photography Plymouth, and and create content around that keyword and hopefully increase our position and increase our overall CTR. I want to let you know that everything you see on this page, all of these screenshots have been taken directly from AI. The formatting, the graphs, if you look down here, this graph illustrates to us top queries by clicks. It's got all our keywords here, and it's telling us how many clicks we are getting for that keyword. And that graph has been completely built by AI. That's no interference by me. What's really interesting is when I take your attention to the left on the header, which says suggested LSI keywords. Now, an LSI keyword stands for latent semantic index keywords. I've managed to get through that without messing up, which isn't something I normally do. So an LSI keyword is effectively a keyword that is related to your company, as is a keyword that you have the opportunity but are not yet ranking for. So, for example, London Photo Agency, London Image Agency, these are all LSI keywords for one of my clients that AI has recommended. Why this is so special is normally we are just given, it takes a lot of research to find an LSI keyword. We've got to have someone who really knows what they're talking about from the brand, and we've got to also know someone who really knows SEO. What makes this so amazing is that ChatGPT-4 has just analyzed 6 months of your data. And it's also it knows about your company, but it also knows about LSI keywords and what we're looking for when finding an LSI keyword. In simple, it provides us with LSI keywords, and from there we can look into more about building content around these LSI keywords. Okay, I'm going to bring you to another slide here, which is using AI to write blogs. Now, this is my favorite topic to discuss at the moment because I think it's so crucial and it's so just interesting to look at. Artificial intelligence, ChatGPT in particular, has been used to write blogs. There are positives and there are negatives, effectively, and that's exactly what I'm going to talk about now. Now, I've noticed loads of, certainly my clients, who have said they have been using ChatGPT to write blogs, and at the moment it is working. And this is something I want to talk about more. Here are some of the positives. Firstly, it's so efficient. You can have a blog written for you in seconds, and it can be targeting a specific keyword, which I move on to consistency. It can talk like you, and it can incorporate your keywords. I mean, that sounds perfect. That sounds like the ideal SEO tool. It sounds like we're never going to need SEO agencies. We're never going to need anyone to help us with our SEO again. But we've had a few issues with this recently, and it's something will continue to have issues with. Now, my big question, which I don't know the answer to, is will Google eventually start penalizing AI written blogs? And I think this is such an interesting topic. Maybe that's because I'm a bit boring, but it's a really interesting thing to look at. And we've got a piece of news through this week, which said AI, such as ChatGPT, those AI models are learning off pieces in the internet. They are learning off pieces of information written by other AI platforms on the internet. For example, someone writes an AI blog, they put it on the internet. Those new AI training models are being taught off of that old content. So we're getting ourselves into an AI information loop. So in that respect, I think it is something that Google will start looking at. It's always going to look for content that is that's following what we call the EAT model, which effectively means your content is really well written and you are a trustworthy source. Now, I want to talk about some of the negatives here. Creativity is a big one. Unless you're really utilizing this model, it's not always going to sound like you. And that's why a lot of people have objections to it. Obviously, there's also a limited contextual understanding. ChatGPT may struggle to fully understand the context and may produce slightly inaccurate results, which obviously, when we go back to our information loop, it is quite a big deal. My favorite quotes, which was said by one of my clients, actually, I like this: if no one could be bothered to write it, why should anyone be bothered to read it? It's a really interesting point, and I think on the whole, AI blogs are great at the moment if you are putting time into them. If you are learning how to use these AI models, firstly, not just saying, write me a blog focusing on this keyword. You know, it's not a whole lesson you to learn. You know, it's a 20-minute YouTube video, it's sorted out. But you need to start by really learning how to write those blogs. And the second part is you're inputting some of your own information. You're not just writing a general blog, you're editing that blog, which I think most people already know. Okay, so I'm just going to take you on to the next point now. I have finished the information I'm going to be giving you. If you've got 2 minutes, I just want to talk to you slightly more about a package I call Plunge. Now, this is something we've just introduced into our agency, and it is called Plunge. It's our most premium package, which covers every single aspect of SEO. Now, just to properly introduce myself, I know that should have been done earlier, but I really wanted to just get into it. I'm Oliver and I run Mango Marketing. Now, Mango Marketing works with creative professionals. And the reason that is what I talked about later in this video, how those people need almost a special care of SEO when it comes to image SEO and video SEO. I'm just going to run you through what our Plunge package looks like. So we've got a timeline, firstly, which introduces every single aspect of SEO. Now, it took me a few months to kind of form this package, and I'm really excited to share it with you all today. The stages are as followed. We've got stage 1, which is keyword and competition research. Stage 2, we're looking at on-page implementations, in particular on-page SEO. Then on stage 3, we're looking at our technical SEO, and stage 4, we're looking at what we call the off-page SEO, which is link building and citations. And from there on, we will look at building content with our copywriters who work alongside us. And as you know, we work particularly with those creative professionals. So if you are a photographer or a photographic agency, we have the content writers which specialize in exactly that. Now, I just want to show you just an example, and then you can all go of month 1. This is what the first stage of our Plunge package looks like. And what we do is we give you a day-to-day rundown. You know exactly what the team's going to be working on, and you know when they are going to be working on it. Day 1, we're looking at Google My Business, a completely underrated thing in SEO. And, you know, people say, what can you do with my Google My Business? There is a lot we can do with it. You know, there's a lot more behind it. Not only can we look at the on-page SEO and make sure we're kind of not flushing out keywords, we also want to look at our citations, building backlinks to your Google My Business. Day 7, we're going to start understanding the competition. This is our competition research stage, which is finished by day 20. So that's 2 weeks. I think I found it quite hard to kind of create this bit of the package, because what's interesting about it is it's not just about us showing you, look, here's what we've provided for the competition. Here's what your competition are doing, and just kind of feeding you this information. I also want the team who are going to be working with every single month. They're going to be the same team working through each month with you. I wanted the team to properly understand the competition behind you, and I want them to properly understand your brand. So not only are we talking about the competition research and presenting you files with competition research, we also want the team to understand your brand. Day 21, we're looking at keyword research, and day 30, we are finalizing that keywords. Now, that's all we've got time for today. I'm going to stop talking now. This is my contact. If you'd love to get in contact with me, if you'd like to get in contact with me, I'd love to hear back from you. I think I've explained slightly more about myself. Apologies for the people who didn't manage to access the link today, but I really appreciate those people who have watched us live. And thank you all very much for joining us wherever you are, whether you're in New York, whether you're in London. I guess it's either good morning or have a nice weekend to you. But yeah, thanks very much for joining us today. We really appreciate that. Get in contact, and we'd love to hear back from you.